Good morning, and welcome to Hillsborough Transportation Planning Organization meeting for Wednesday, May 10th, 2023. Let us stand and repeat the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Before we get started, I'd just like to recognize our newest member, Councilman help me with your last name.
Alan Clendenin.
Alan Clendenin. Thank you so much. We also have with us Steve Bernstein is in attendance from the Planning Commission. Steve, thank you. Scott Draingerfield from Hart. Oh, raise your hand so others would know. Scott, okay. And representing the mayor's office is Councilman Schishler. Okay. A couple of additional announcements. Commissioner Kemp is unable to attend this meeting. Same with Mayor Ross, and Councilman Schishler is representing Mayor Ross. And also, I will be leaving the meeting at 11 a.m. and Commissioner Cohen would take over the meeting if we're not finished at 11. So. Thank you so much, and we'll go. At this time, we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes, here.
Councilmember Schissler?
Here.
Commissioner Owen?
Here.
Commissioner Wastel?
Here.
Commissioner Cohen?
Here.
Commissioner Kemp is excused. Councilmember Clendenin?
Here.
Councilmember Hurtak?
Here.
Councilmember Maniscalco?
Here.
Mayor Kilton?
Here.
Board Member Vaughn?
Here.
Charles Klug?
Here.
Joe Lopano? Gina Du? Bob Frey? Here. Scott Drainville? Here. Stephen Bernstein, Planning Commissioner.
Here.
We do have an in-person quorum. Chair, would you please call for a vote of consent for remote participation?
Have a vote for consent for participation, please.
So moved. Second.
Need a roll call vote? No, okay. Thank you so much. We're scheduled to have a recognition. He's here. Okay, you see. Okay. Thank you. Have Beth.
Good morning, board members. I want to recognize Council Member Joseph Citro as our outgoing board member who served with us for 4 years, and in addition was a great leader as the chair of the Livable Roadways Committee and put in many extra hours to follow up on those parts of our roadway design that are so important to our community members. He's also served as one of our representatives to the Tri-County Transportation Management Area Leadership Group, and spent a lot of time with the Policy Committee as well. And I just really want to thank Joe for all the time that he's put in his leadership.
Thank you,
We're going to miss you. Would you like to? You're welcome to say something if you'd like.
Let's be careful. It has been a pleasure and an honor to serve with all of the board members. It's been an honor and a privilege to be able to state what I feel this county needs. Ladies and gentlemen, we all have worked hard for one thing, and that's to make this county's transportation needs much better, whether it be on land, sea, or air. We are the hub of transportation in this area. I only ask one thing, that Vision Zero come first in everything we do. Let's protect the lives of our citizens. Let's protect the lives of people who come and visit. Let's protect the lives of the people that work in Hillsborough County. If I may, Madam Chair, one more thing. I'd also like to thank the staff of the MPO TPO. Thank you for everyone that comes and expresses their opinion. Because without you, whether or not we want to listen to it or not, we still want to hear the voice of our citizens. Madam Chair, thank you. Board members, thank you. Ms. Alden, it has been a pleasure working with you. And I want you to have the best in your future endeavors, and it's going to be hard, high heels to feel for the next person. Madam Chair, thank you very much.
And thank you, and on behalf of the board, we thank you for all your service, and we hope that you will continue to share your input in moving transportation in our county. Thank you so
Madam
much.
Chair.
Okay, we have the approval of the minutes for April 12th, 2023. It's been properly moved in second for the approval of the minutes. We need a roll call vote, Gail? Okay, no. We're right at public comments on the agenda. Do we have anyone to sign up for public comments? Okay. Yes. Hold on. We have a total of 30 minutes, and each speaker will have 3 minutes. Staff will unmute when the chair recognizes you. So at this time, with the list I have in front of me, virtual is Rick Fernandez, followed by Chris Valea. So Rick?
Thank you,
Can I
Chair.
hear you,
Can you
Rick?
hear me all?
Yes,
Yeah,
I can hear you
Can you hear
now.
me okay?
Yes.
All right, thank you, thank you. My name is Rick Fernandez. My comments are directed to your agenda items 8E, related to the merger MOU, and 9, related to the TPO-ED search. First, I'll speak to procedure, then very briefly on substance. There has been a disturbing lack of transparency and public participation related to both of these initiatives. Your CAC has been left out of both discussions, therefore compromising our very important role as conduits of information to and from the public. A suggestion made last month to include a CAC member as part of the ED interview committee fell flat. And to date, the CAC has been offered no report and has been asked for no input. The impression left, frankly, is of a board and staff conducting a very important transitional function completely in the shadows with little or no regard for the public. Likewise, the TPO-MPO merger issue has not been briefed for the CAC, and we have not been given an opportunity to offer advisory input. Tampa and Hillsborough have poor track records for the selection and removal of C-suite leadership. We have set a relatively low bar in the recent history. One would be wise to avoid the appearance of impropriety here. Which brings me to substance in the context of the merger MOU. I submitted extensive comments on the MOU in advance of the March 24 TMA meeting. Those are incorporated now by reference and are available through TPO staff. Each of you received copies of those comments back in March. I stand in opposition to merger. As I wrote then, the language now appearing in Article 2, Paragraph A of the MOU is the most alarming of the entire document, in my opinion. It resolves that the 3 effective county MPOs agree to investigate the formation of a new regional MPO, quote, with the goal of certifying the MPO by July 1, 2027, close quote. This language reflects the intention to investigate for the purpose of justifying a predetermined goal, thus undermining the credibility of the entire investigative endeavor. The public deserves a seat at the table for all of these discussions. We also deserve representative seats at the dais of this and future Hillsborough TPO boards. Please don't sell us down the river. Reject the merger. And for God's sake, open the curtains and let the sunshine in. Thank you.
And thank you. Chris?
Thank
Good
you,
morning.
Madam Chair. So this is Chris Vella, 33605 Ybor City. I'm just going to echo a little bit what Rick Fernandez says. I oppose against a merger. I'm going to talk about some 3 key points here really quickly. So we already have regional boards. So that's the Regional Planning Council. They actually do a lot of study for major regional projects like the highway system. The Planning Commission actually has an interlocal board for any type of jurisdictions along the river. So by law and by charter, county charter and state statutes, we actually don't require a regional board to make decisions. SCTPA, the guys who are pushing this merger, are already a regional board identified by Florida legislation. So what they're trying to do is duplicate this effort, forming maybe another TBARTA, forming something different. But the point is that Hillsborough County taxpayers are going to be spending thousands, if not millions of dollars to form this group and sustain it. And so this is this big government, and a lot of these people that would be on this board are actually other county commissioners we didn't elect that will take Hillsborough County's funds and use them as leverage for regional projects. So let's talk about those regional projects. I've been here many times to talk about the interstate expansion, right? What's happening in Orlando is with their interstate expansion is the state allows FDOT just to hire a general prime contractor. That contractor, unlike the ones that would build your house, can go to the banks and finance this road against the bonds that are tax-backed. And so these contractors actually go offshore and get money from offshore banks, not US banks, offshore banks, to fund large highway regional projects. And so you think, oh, well, they got express lanes, you know, they got user fees, people pay for that. But if the lenders are not happy or not getting paid back on their terms, that taxpayer money that goes to those tolls actually gets parsed out at those toll revenues. So they got to make money back. And any toll lane project, you can look back into history, any regional project, they don't even break even until decades later. So I don't know about you guys, but I won't want my taxpayer money to be made by a county commissioner that I didn't elect on a multi-billion-dollar regional project to pay back loans that were made by a contractor who I have completely no oversight, nor this local board does. I think it's insane. And we know that regional boards don't work. TBART, which was before TBARTA, they voted to dissolve themselves. TBARTA, just I think last year, voted to dissolve themselves. We're not in a position to make this move. Now, I'm not against regionalism, but what I'm trying to tell you guys is that you don't need a regional board to get into interlocal agreements with Pinellas County or Pasco County to talk about regional projects and to leverage federal funding. And most of these projects that FDOT wants to push are state funded. So they don't even want any federal grants for that.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Thank you, I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay, our next speaker is that Hermera? H.A., how are you pronouncing this? Humaira Otsu. It should be in person. Okay. Mike Drake, good morning.
Good morning. How are you all today?
Doing good.
Kind of sad you start your day off like this. Just kidding. So my name is Mike Drapak. I'm a recent transplant to the beautiful state of Florida. And one of the key factors that compelled us to settle in Hillsborough County was the meticulous planning that distinguishes it from its neighboring communities like those in Pinellas and Pasco counties. Prior to our relocation, we lived in the wonderful suburbs of Chicago. Following an extensive evaluation, we concluded that Tampa was the place that resonated most with us. We invested a great deal of time researching traffic flow, quality of materials, design, wear and tear, access, and egress before finally deciding on an ideal location. We're a little strange. Our fondness for this region stems partially from our belief that it is one of the most navigable counties in the area. Please pardon any errors in knowledge as I'm just learning about this memorandum of understanding. But as I understand it, this MOU recommends a merger between Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco County's transportation boards. It is imperative that we stand strongly opposed to such a concept for many reasons. The proposed Suncoast Planning Transportation Alliance and the Florida legislature's move to control local decision-making over the prioritization of our major roads could have serious implications. If this proposal goes through, I fear our local decision-making power will be eradicated in favor of decisions made by a majority elected from other counties. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe the voters of Hillsborough County, or any other county in this country, would see the idea of neighboring counties having any say in their planning as a positive evolution of fiscally responsible spending, and as a matter of fact, I believe most voters would likely see it as what it is: wasteful bureaucratic spending and a reallocation of our important resources to areas that have nothing to do with our community. It is noteworthy that the MOU proffered by the proponents of this bill concedes that there is sparse precedent in Florida for de-designating a local MPO. The scarcity of guidance currently should set off a red flag and bring about a sense of prudence in your decisions. For instance, how elaborate should this report so ordered by the governor be? What assurances and minority voting protections will we as a county have? Surely you wouldn't just give them the key to the castle so our county can be railroaded by the decisions of those who don't even live here. We must remain wary of relinquishing our decision-making authority and unelected officials from other counties, as this would engender an erosion of our cherished principles of local governance. We must be mindful of the possible fiscal implications of creating a regional MPO, as this would necessitate considerable startup costs and a recurrent infusion of local funding from member agencies or the host local government to develop a budget and pay for personnel. This is a fiscal burden that we should not endorse, particularly when we have already witnessed the defeat of a local referendum. I implore you to join me in vehemently opposing the proposal to supply a report on how to merge Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco County's transportation boards in the hopes of creating a regional board. We must remain steadfast in protecting our cherished principles of local governance, preserving the sanctity of our democratic process, and ensuring that our decision-making is calibrated with the needs and aspiration of our local community. Thank you.
Thank you. Doreen Joseph, virtual. Is Doreen on the line? Okay.
I do not see Doreen on the line.
Okay. Katie Conley, virtual. Kate Conley.
I do not see Kate on the line either.
Okay, thank you so much, staff. This closes our public comments. We'll move right into committee reports and advanced comments of Rick Fernandez, followed by Gina Torres. Rick?
Thank you, Chair, and good morning again.
Good morning.
This time I am wearing the hat of your CAC Chair. Here to report on the results of our meeting held the evening of May 3rd of this year. We convened at 6 p.m., adjourned shortly after 8. We had 11 committee members in attendance, but only 5 in the room, so we did not meet our 7-member quorum for action items. We did nonetheless cover a full agenda of topics and held straw votes to record committee positions on the scheduled action items. So at least we can give you a sense of the committee, if not by way of formal action. We had 4 action items before us, which I think for the most part mirror your action items on your agenda, though not completely. The TIP amendment related to North Tampa Street and North Florida Avenue urban corridor improvements gained the approval of the committee by straw vote of 11-0 in favor. The committee inquired whether the funding improvements will be able to accommodate dedicated transit service on the corridor, as well as the status of Hart's lane repurposing application. The committee has shown much interest in this project dating back to the production of the Tampa Heights Mobility Plan and asked for details about lane widths accommodating freight, scope of drainage improvements, ability to preserve bike lanes, and locations of traffic signals. Staff was able to provide the mobility plan to help clarify some details of this project. The next action item was the Unified Public Work Program Update and Amendment. This also received approval by a straw vote of 11-0. The questions about the UPWP update mostly expressed curiosity about plans for our local government partners more than the UPWP itself. One committee member recognized Amber Simmons of TPO staff for her success in balancing the agency budget. The next action item was the annual certification of metropolitan planning or transportation planning process. This received unanimous support by acclamation vote. The TPO staff received praise for its contribution to the planning profession and for notable achievements being recognized by the Florida Department of Transportation. There was, however, an expression of concern over the absence of any mention regarding the area's nation-leading traffic death tolls. The next action item was related to the draft CAC resolution regarding partner agency participation in the committee process. That item was deferred. Without a quorum, discussion of this item was limited. Some committee members continued to express frustration that it has been a persistent challenge to recruit staff representatives to attend committee meetings, which contributes to the lack of transparency within the planning process. Committee members indicated they will propose only minor adjustments to the letter during a subsequent meeting, and I imagine that will find its way to you in a report sometime in the next 2 months. We had 2 status reports, the first having to do with the Hillsborough County Truck Route Plan and 2050 Freight and Goods Movement Technical Memo. And we also received a status report on the draft FY 24-28 Transportation Improvement Program update. The June meeting of the CAC will be extended to 3 hours to allow for sufficient time to review the tip. Also, the July meeting will be converted from an optional social meeting to a business meeting with an agenda to discuss details of the cost and revenue needs assessment. A copy of these remarks has been provided to the Secretary for inclusion in the record of this meeting and to aid in transcription. That's the end of the report. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Are there any questions? Thank you so much, Rick.
Thank
Good
you.
morning, Gina.
Good morning, Gina Torres, TPO staff. In regard to today's action items on the board agenda, besides the CAC, the TAC did take action. They approved both the TIP amendment. They did ask about lane widths and the users of a bus lane, who else could be using that space, and the timing between the interim and the final conditions. They approved the Unified Planning Work Program, then the annual certification of the Metropolitan Planning process also. There were a lot of great presentations received by the committees, the US 41 CSX grade separation, PD&E, that's on your agenda today as well. The updates were given on preparations for the 2050 Long Range Transportation Plan update. The BPAC heard a presentation on the US Bicycle Route 15, that's a proposed new bike route. The Transportation Disadvantage Coordinating Board approved the Community Transportation Coordinator service rates and the 2023 Transportation Disadvantage Service Plan. And lastly, on the committee reports, the CAC is looking forward to the opportunity to review the cost revenue needs assessment. And they'll be holding a workshop in July to have an open dialogue about viable revenue sources. In summary of your public comments, and you do have the full comments in your folder, there were 2 Facebook comments. Mike Lamarca wrote requesting a bike lane or sharrow. Presuming this was on the TIP item for Florida and Tampa. He didn't indicate that, but to not force cyclists to use a side path without proper access control, a side path puts cyclists in danger. Michelle Cookson posted that she remains opposed to the merger to establish a multi-county regional MPO. She stated that we need local representation that's responsive to Hillsborough County's unique geography, growth, and mobility needs. She's concerned for the jobs and careers of our planning professionals on the TPO, Hillsborough TPO, and the work that we have in progress. She added that we don't need surrounding counties ganging up on us and treating us as merely a place to drive through or over. We're the economic powerhouse of this region, and we have immediate needs to tend to first. Please stand up for us, regardless of pressure coming from the state. There were 4 emails received. Michael Moreno, who is the Executive Director of the West Shore Alliance, appreciated the TPO boards approving the traffic signal and pedestrian crossing at Boy Scout in Manhattan. He also noted the assistance that he received from TPO staff Johnny Wong. Brian Ruscher, Deputy Director of the Multimodal at Palm Beach TPA, sent an email thanking Lisa Silva of the TPO staff for a presentation at their Vision Zero workshop that was spot on and flawless. He went on to say that their board and the 55 attendees were really engaged throughout the presentation. Patrick Posey emailed his opposition to the proposed MPO merger, stating it would take away from local decision-making power, which is what is needed most for an effective transportation network. And Rick Fernandez also submitted an email directed to the TMA on the merger, and he stated several of those. That full report is in your folder. There's several points that he made. We have a voicemail that came in from Dave Coleman, and he was just sharing his observations after attending a public meeting in Trinity in Pasco County. He said that besides there was not one person of color in attendance, the topic centered around the gentrification and removal of about 10 farmers over the last 20 or so years. And in turn, he states, many thousands of people in Hillsborough County have been removed or hurt in some way from gentrification, with many more dependent on decisions made by governing boards for transportation, housing, and land use that are Hillsborough specific. So we request that you absolutely vote no to a merger for this obvious reason, showing the differences and concerns between the counties. And lastly, we had a Twitter comment responding to a TPO post about the Tampa train day. Chris N. wrote, since Tampa Union Station is owned by the city of Tampa, then Go Bright should be allowed to share the building. The Tampa Union Station was designed with multiple platforms in order to host trains from 3 different railway companies. That is a summary of your public comments.
And thank you so much. Next, we move to consent agenda.
Move consent.
Second.
It's been properly moved for consent. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much. Okay, our action items. Roger Matthews. Good morning.
Good morning, board members. I'm Roger Matthew, TPO staff. Today I'm presenting, Cheryl, do you got my slides ready? Ready to go? Okay, thank you. Today I'm presenting you an overview, a new TIP amendment that will impact projects on North Florida Avenue from Palm Avenue to MLK Junior Boulevard, and North Tampa Street from Florblasca Avenue to MLK Junior Boulevard. Next slide, please. All right, the entire project shown here on this slide, but the portions of the corridors affected by this TIP amendment here are colored in orange. Some of the design work has already been completed on this project, but the TIP amendment being requested today would add more than $3.3 million in design funding spread across fiscal years 23 and 2024. The design work will include an upgrade to the drainage system to help reduce flooding along both corridors. And on Tampa Street, the multimodal improvements here include curb line relocation, widen a sidewalk on the east side of the street, and create a 12-foot shared use path on the west side of the street. On Florida Avenue, the multimodal improvements also include curb line relocation, narrow the width of the travel lanes, and widen the sidewalks on both sides of the street. Bulb outs will also be constructed in areas with on-street parking at Columbus Drive and Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, all on Florida Avenue. And there will be 3 new pedestrian crossings installed, one on Florida Avenue at 26th Ave and 2 on Tampa Street at Woodlawn Avenue and Indiana Avenue. This project also is being supported by planned projects by HART, including the BRT system, bus rapid transit, and a light rail extension. On the next slide, please. All right, this slide here shows some typical cross sections of the planned projects on Tampa Street and Florida Avenue. The interim conditions shown on the top row of this slide indicate the improvements that are currently program funds are working toward, and the sections shown on the bottom show the longer term vision of the corridors, including slightly reduced lane widths to accommodate a bus-only lane. And the next slide, please. And this slide is also showing a total of 6 proposed pedestrian crossings on Tampa Avenue, or Tampa Street and Florida Avenue, colored in light blue, and the locations of the proposed bulb outs to protect the on-street parking, colored in purple. Next slide, please. And this slide shows the original adoption date of June 8, 2022. That's showing no design funding in fiscal year 24. Next slide. And this slide here shows the new amendment with the addition of $3 million of TPO funds and $300,000 of district funds to do design in fiscal year 24. Next slide, please. And as part of our required public activities in May, we published a newsletter describing the amendments, published informational flyers on social media, published a webpage, and posted signs in the ground near the locations of the affected projects. And we also brought this forward to the TAC. That was approved unanimously, and the CAC meeting, there was no quorum there, but was also approved with a straw vote of 11-0. And next slide. And today we're recommending that you approve the TIP amendment. And any questions or discussions?
Yes, Councilman.
Thank you very much. So I live off Martin Luther King, and I utilize Tampa Street and Florida Avenue every day. If it's going to church on Sunday, where there's nobody on the road, because I go 7:30 in the morning, or just to get to City Hall, or being in Tampa Heights, or leaving downtown where, you know, there's traffic throughout those corridors, I see a couple of things that were mentioned. Drainage improvements are needed because when it rains, even a short rainstorm, you see a lot of flooding, especially on Tampa Street. Approaching Florabraska, just north of Palm Avenue, you know, there's issues there. We see how one of the heart routes right there going down Tampa Street, there's a bus stop just south of MLK, and people crossing the street, no crosswalks. And this also applies to Florida Avenue, which we've seen some improvements. The wider sidewalks are important. The BRT for future planning is important. It's just such a heavily traveled road, and I take it, again, every day north and south, and I see people, you know, jaywalking, if you want to call it. They have nowhere to cross. You know, that's much needed. It's very dangerous. Cars are traveling at high rates of speed because they're avoiding the interstate. They're using these corridors to get downtown or to go north. So this is great. These are much needed improvements throughout these corridors. And talking to the residents there, for years they've been asking for more improvements. And, you know, really this is a no-brainer and something that's much needed, and I'm glad that it's being proposed. So thank you very much.
Second.
Okay.
Motion to move to approve.
Have a second. And we'll recognize Councilwoman Hurtak.
Thank you. I echo what Councilman Maniscalco said. Absolutely needed for the stormwater improvements were, I believe, the genesis for this entire project because the flooding is incredibly bad in those areas. But what I did have a question for staff, when I see the expanded sidewalks, I think the public may have a question about bicycle lanes. And from as a cyclist, I see the new bikeway that's going to be on Ola as the preferred method for traveling by bike. And I just wanted to see if that's what staff is looking at in terms of not putting a bike lane on Florida or Tampa Street.
Beth.
According to the plans right now, it looks like they're pushing the bicyclists onto the sidewalks, the widening of the sidewalks on both sides.
Well, it's a great,
Yes, but
it's a great point.
the city of Tampa is putting a bike pathway in, or just like a bike boulevard on Ola going north-south, which is a couple blocks to the west of Tampa Street. So will they be encouraging folks to use that instead of the sidewalks?
Yes, that's right. And in fact, this project, the reconstruction of Tampa Street and Florida Avenue, was one of the improvements to come out of the Heights Mobility Study. And the Heights Mobility Study also identified bikeways on not just one, but two parallel roadways, Central Avenue on the east and Ola on the west. And there are funded improvements in the work program on both of those corridors. For example, on MLK at Ola, there'll be a new pedestrian activated crossing so that bicyclists traveling that corridor will have a protected crossing of the road. So it's all part of a package.
Thank you. I just, again, wanted the public to understand that. Otherwise, this is a well-needed project. Folks in the Heights have been working on this for many, many years, and I absolutely encourage its passage. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, I heard a motion, but I did not hear a second. Is that- You second, okay. We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, second by Commissioner Cohen. Roll call vote, please. I'm sorry, before that, Commissioner Watson, you? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Myers?
Yes.
Councilmember Schisler?
Yes.
Commissioner Owen?
Yes.
Commissioner Wastel?
Yes.
Commissioner Cohen?
Yes.
Councilmember Clendenin. Please pronounce your name one more time for me.
Clendenin.
Clendenin.
Yes.
Thank
I
you.
thought my name was bad.
Councilmember Hurtak?
Yes.
Councilmember Maniscalco?
Yes.
Mayor Kilton?
Yes.
Board Member Vaughn?
Yes.
Charles Klug?
Yes.
Bob Frey?
Yes.
Scott Drainville?
Yes.
Stephen Bernstein?
Yes.
The motion passes 14-0.
Thank you. And-
Right, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the report. Okay, next staff up is Amber Simmons. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. And Cheryl, do we have my slides? Perfect, thank you. So good morning again. I'm Amber Simmons, TPO staff. The purpose of this presentation is to briefly review the Unified Planning Work Program and the proposed amendment to add additional funding. Next slide. The Unified Planning Work Program is a 2-year cycle. The project information has been provided for you in your packet. The listed projects that you see here or will see here are not new, and the tasks have remained the same. I will focus our time on the amendment and what is new. Next slide. We are almost at the midpoint of a 2-year budget. Amendments are needed if there are changes in the budget, scope, or project additions. Next slide. Our fiscal year goes from July 1st through June 30th. This slide reviews our 17 current and ongoing projects, and there are also a couple of additional long-range transportation plan projects about to kick off. Next slide. The work that the TPO does is divided into 6 main tasks and a 7th regional task that was developed for projects that transfer funds between MPOs or TPOs. Next slide. The slide you see here reviews the required projects for our fiscal year 24. Most of them are focusing on the 2050 Long-Range Transportation Plan and are ongoing annual obligations. Next slide. These projects are not required, but are recommended and are currently programmed in our fiscal year 24 budget based on board action last year. Next slide. And here's our focus and the new information for you. We are looking to add an additional allotment of $13,655 in planning dollars. Leftover funds from fiscal year 22 are being transferred for use in our fiscal year 24 budget, which equals $46,033 in planning funds and $59,172 in surface transportation block grant funds. We will be receiving an estimated $389,875 in an Environmental Protection Agency grant for an air quality network monitoring project, although the actual end number is looking more like $388,375. Our updated budget, therefore, for fiscal year 24 is $2,467,574 in planning dollars or PL, and $659,172 in surface transportation block grant dollars. Lastly, the Florida Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged, or CTD, state funds was an estimated $50,496 based on our fiscal year 23 allocation. However, we have very recently received information that it may be more like $52,873. Next slide, please. So therefore, the purpose of the UPWP amendment is to shift some existing funds between the tasks to accommodate our greater effort in public engagement and regional coordination, add the estimated Environmental Protection Agency's Enhanced Air Quality Monitoring for Communities grant for the Distributed Air Quality Monitoring Network for Disadvantaged Communities project, add the fiscal year 22 planning funds of $46,033 and the Surface Transportation Block Grant funds of $59,172 to our fiscal year 24 budget, and the additional allocation of planning funds of $13,655. Therefore, the total budget change and reason for the amendment is to add the additional $508,735. Next slide, please. Our recommended action is to approve the Unified Planning Work Program amendment. Questions and discussion?
Any questions? We need a motion.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, second by Councilman Schisler. All in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposes? That motion is carried. Stay right there. We go into the next report, please.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. So there are no slides for this next item. It is the Community Air Monitoring Project and USF College of Public Health Memorandum of Understanding. So I'll walk you through that. It is related to the Unified Planning Work Program amendment and the Environmental Protection Agency grant, and is the other item on your agenda today. The Community Air Monitoring Project, USF College of Public Health Memorandum of Understanding. The MOU enables the College of Public Health to continue providing the scientific and technical expertise on community air monitoring and public engagement among the disadvantaged communities and vulnerable populations near the interstates. The EPA grant will fund this work and the network expansion. It is therefore our recommendation to approve the Memorandum of Understanding. Discussion?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Maniscalco, second by Commissioner Cohen. All in favor of the motion say aye. Any
Aye.
opposes? That motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, can I ask you, can you hear me?
Yes, it's getting ready to
Okay,
recognize you.
thank you. I didn't hear my name in the roll call vote.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I
Okay,
didn't
thank
have him
you.
respond during roll call.
Okay. You're saying you didn't have him to respond during the roll call?
During initial roll call.
Okay.
I'll mark him that he's present.
We will mark you present. Joe, we will
Okay,
mark you
thank you,
present.
Chair.
Thank you. Okay. Next up is Johnny Wan. Good morning.
Morning, board members, Johnny Wong, TPO staff. I'm here to give you a verbal report on the results of our 2023 Joint Certification Review, which covers the 2022 calendar year. So a little bit of background for our newer members. The TPO is subject to 2 review processes. Every 4 years, we have a comprehensive review and site visit with reps from Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit, as well as FDOT. But in the interim years, every year, we do an abbreviated certification review with just FDOT, which basically amounts to a report card on our work products and planning processes. That review is structured into 3 sections. First, notable achievements, anything that we're doing that commands some attention because we're going above and beyond expectations. Second, any recommended changes, not necessary, but opportunities for us to enhance our planning processes. And finally, corrective actions, things that have to be done, have to be fixed to maintain compliance with federal and state rules and ensure that we're eligible to receive federal and state funding. I'll start with the highlights, the notable achievements. These are all summarized on the attachment in your packet. I won't go through all of them, but we got recognized for about a dozen work products this past year. Some of the notable ones include expanding public outreach efforts for our TIP amendments. We got praise for the Tampa School Transportation Safety Study, Safe Access to Parks Study, Storm Evacuation, Supply Chain Resilience, and the EPA Air Quality Monitoring Grant. Moving on to the recommendations for improvement, FDOT offered us 2 suggestions. The first is a general comment that was made to all MPOs across the region, and that's to continue coordinating with the district liaison during the consultant procurement process so that we can ensure regulatory compliance. The second is to continue educating board members and committee members of the TPO's role in planning and prioritization. I take that, or I interpret that to mean that we can improve that during onboarding and do some continuing educations to make sure that we're all working within the constraints of what the TPO can actually accomplish. And last, there were no corrective actions, which means we remain in compliance with all federal and state guidelines, and we're considered to be low risk to continue receiving that funding. So based on the finding that we're in compliance, the recommended action for this board is to support recertification of the TPO and to authorize Chair Myers to sign the joint certification statement so that we can send it back to FDOT and close this out. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions? Have a motion to receive?
Move approval. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Corn and second by Councilman Maniscalco. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposes? Motion is carried. Thank
All
you
right,
so
great,
much.
thank you.
Okay, our next one is Elizabeth Watkins. Good morning.
Good morning, Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff. And while Cheryl's pulling up my slides, I would just like to emphasize that the action before you today is to consider supporting the MOU for purposes of seeking feedback. So this is not to execute the MOU, but just to get your blessing to seek feedback from the public, TPO committees, and local jurisdictions. Next slide, Cheryl. So this is just a map showing the Tampa-St. Pete Transportation Management Area, and this is important because this is at the core of the MPO program. This is how funds are suballocated through the federal government that have local decision-making authority. Next slide, please. So as you may be aware, in this past legislative session, the Florida legislature directed the Hillsborough, Pasco, and Pinellas MPOs to produce a feasibility report to study the benefits, costs, and processes of consolidation into a single MPO by the end of the year and submit that report to the governor and the legislature. Next slide, please. So there's been a lot of conversations about the pros and the cons, and I won't get into all of those, but at a high level, what we hear is the pros of pursuing a merger are to speak with one voice regionally, to build trust and collaboration, and to possibly compete more effectively for those discretionary transportation funds. Detractors of an MPO merger say that this dissolves local decision-making authority and at the end of the day does not guarantee additional funding for the region. Next slide, please. So MPO mergers are fairly rare nationwide. I'm personally only aware of 2 in the past 10 to 15 years. But most recently, one happened in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas in 2019, probably for the same reasons that this conversation is before us. The goal of that was to strengthen advocacy for more state transportation funding. And what that process did was merge 3 MPOs into a single MPO in that area. They also did a similar MOU, which was executed by those local governments and signed by the governor. And at its core, what it did was to work through those initial bylaws, to also to preserve the individual funding so that it would stay to each 3 areas. So that's a little bit different than what's considered here, but something to look towards as this conversation progresses. Next slide, please. So the Atlanta Regional Commission, which is the MPO that serves the Atlanta area, has a Livable Communities Initiative. And this is one way that larger MPOs, regional MPOs, kind of address that core concern of, does local decision-making and local funding come at the risk of regionalism? So ARC takes a portion of their suballocated funds and they go directly to those more local projects. So to intersection improvements, to studies, to smaller scale projects that really bubble up at a local level. So there are ways to preserve those local funding priorities in a regional context. Next slide, please. So I'll just give a big picture summary of what's in that MOU. And again, the intention of the MOU is just to have a few key decision-making points that all 3 MPO boards can get behind as we go through this multi-year process of possibly merging together. So the first kind of consensus point through the MOU is based on apportionment. The statement that we can agree that population representation should be based on population in whatever shape that the board takes, as well as that governance structure. It also highlights that, that balancing of local and regional needs and acknowledging the importance of local needs in this regional effort. Another topic is funding. There will be a need for long-term local commitment to stand up and to maintain a regional MPO, because there are significant starting costs as well as operating costs. And the target goal is to have a regional MPO stood up by July 1st of 2027. Next slide, please. So outreach is another key area. We acknowledge the importance to coordinate with local jurisdictions as well as the public and all of the individual MPOs committees. The importance of maintaining all those federally required plans and programs that help facilitate the federal approval of transportation funds coming to our area, as well as updating and developing the different agreements, interlocal agreements that help stand up an MPO. And then lastly, the acknowledgement of existing staff. The Suncoast Transportation Planning Alliance and Transportation Management Area, those don't have their own individual staff. That's all done by all MPO staff, so acknowledging that it will need some transition of that staff to staff a regional MPO. Next slide, please. And then staff is proposing one modification to the MOU, and you can see that whereas clause. And the reason we're suggesting to strike it is because it's not really relevant to this conversation. And essentially what it's saying is that FDOT has a planning funds distribution formula, which is negotiated with the MPO Advisory Council. And that's kind of a separate process that is not within the decision-making authority of the 3 MPOs, so we think for clarity, it would be good to just strike that from the draft MOU. Next slide, please. So this last part of the presentation will just briefly highlight this 4-year process, which we're envisioning working towards a regional MPO. And I will spend more time talking about the immediate actions that staff is working towards in 2023. Next slide, Cheryl. So one of which is developing a regional MPO apportionment plan. So one of our immediate next steps will, of course, be to reach out to all the local governments to incorporate their feedback and the public, and then we'll be developing scenarios for the board's consideration of what voting membership could look like. So we'll be taking lots of input and then bringing back scenarios for the TMA and then I'm sure the local MPO boards as well. Next slide. We're also drafting possible business models. The MPO program is reimbursable, meaning you incur an expense and then you submit an invoice and get reimbursed 3 months later. So there will be a need for long-term sustainable local funding to have a regional MPO, and most likely having a dues structure to support that for sustainability, because that's just what will be required to stand up a regional MPO. And then, of course, we'll be seeking approval and consent and buy-in from the local governments. Next slide. And then I feel like I've said this many times, but outreach. We'll be meeting with all the jurisdictions, and we're anticipating developing a survey for the public, the region to weigh in on their thoughts on an MPO merger. And we will, of course, be going to our individual advisory committees to seek their input and bring that back to you for your consideration. Next slide, please. So to wrap up with some next steps, if you support the staff recommendation today, we intend to do outreach this summer The next Transportation Management Area Leadership Group meeting will be on June 23rd to share that feedback. And then later this fall, we're anticipating bringing the MOU back to your board for possible execution. And then meeting with the TMA Leadership Group to discuss that apportionment plan and business model. And then finally, at the December 1st meeting, we'll have that feasibility report that was directed by the state legislature to complete, and then transmit that, of course, to Tallahassee. Next slide. So the staff recommendation for your consideration today is to support the working draft MOU for circulation to the local governments and the public, as well as strike that whereas clause about planning funds distribution. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Councilman Maniscalco.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. So one of the slides showed a list of bullet points with pros and cons, and the one that stood out to me was in the con section, risk of smaller communities losing influence. Hillsborough County is large enough as it is. It's a very big county, and now we have a Tampa Bay regional approach. I don't know, it just seems like it becomes more diluted. It becomes, it would be like voices would be lost. I've been here on the MPO, now TPO, for 8 years, and I remember the TBX discussions, and we would be here for hours listening to certain parts of the community, Seminole Heights, West Tampa, Tampa Heights, that were being affected by the interstate expansion. And expanding this further, I don't know. I feel like their voices would be lost. It was mentioned earlier that we have the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. So that is made up of a diverse group of leaders throughout the region. If we have that, why would we need to merge, considering how large Hillsborough County is in itself? So I won't be supporting it because I don't want anyone or any community to risk losing their influence or their voice. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want you to know that I'd like to speak. I don't know how to register myself as wanting to speak.
Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay,
Go ahead, Joe.
thank you. Yeah, I support this wholeheartedly, and I said this at one of the previous meetings. The greatest example of how regional cooperation works is Tampa International Airport. And if we only focused on the city of Tampa's needs for that airport, we probably have 10 nonstop destinations. Instead, we have flights all over the world and to the West Coast and to major business destinations. And because of that regional power that the airport creates, every neighborhood benefits, everyone. Instead of thinking parochially about small issues, you think larger, and everyone rises with that tide. So I will be supporting this 100%.
Commissioner Wostel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We talked a lot about cost in the slides. Right now, Beth, how does the TPO, how are you funded? Who funds you?
So for the most part, our work is supported by federal grants for transportation planning and the Surface Transportation Program. As you saw Amber mention in her presentation about the Unified Planning Work Program, she mentioned, so the big three grants are planning from the Federal Highway Administration, Surface Transportation Block Grant from Federal Highway Administration, and another planning grant from Federal Transit. So that's really the bulk of it. What's I think particularly relevant in this conversation is the way that one of those grants is divvied up among all of the MPOs in the state of Florida is based on a formula that's agreed on by all of the MPOs in the state of Florida. And right now, that's calculated with a base funding amount of $350,000 per MPO. So if we merge and we have three MPOs and we have one MPO instead of three MPOs, then we lose that base amount of funding. So that's going to be about, $700,000 a year potentially. There's a discussion right now about even increasing the base amount of funding, but we'd say, at least $700,000 a year for planning could be lost.
So your local, your staffing, the call for there need to be some type of, did you call it a user fee between the three?
Local dues.
Local dues. Who funds the staffs primarily of the TPO? Is that all through grants as well?
Who provides the upfront?
Who funds your staff?
Sure. So those costs are fronted by our host agency, the Planning Commission. and the Planning Commission receives funding from the local governments.
Okay, so instead of it being potentially, though, all new fees, this could, when there's a merger, there might be a realignment of funding in those user fees and how we allocate those funds. But if we merge, we're going to lose some costs and pick up some new costs, and it might be almost a wash. We just don't know what that looks like yet, correct? So we just don't know what those new local fees are, and I didn't want that to be a detractor, especially when we talk about cost, especially as engineers, which I'm assuming is most of FDOT. They look at opportunity costs a lot, and what those opportunity costs are of us not being able to expedite the West Shore interchange that should have been done at least a decade ago. I suffer through that every single morning, and it's at least 1 or 2 wrecks, probably a fatality in some of those. I'm not going to look it up. But I want to make sure that when we talk about costs, we need to look at that big picture opportunity cost regionally of how we have grown exponentially, and there are some clear, distinct pressure points that arrive in Hillsborough, and a lot of them are around the regional incoming traffic or outgoing traffic from the bridges or from north from Pasco, and if we had better bargaining power, we can avoid future West Shore interchanges, whatever's happening in Wesley Chapel. I know that that's continuing to grow to be a huge pain point. Most growth is going to go north, so I believe that local communities will have better service and more protection of life. We talked about Vision Zero earlier, if we can get ahead of the ball now with bargaining for more money, and I don't want that important factor to get lost when we talk about a few dollars, when we have those invisible opportunity costs that haven't been mentioned in those slides. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Clendenden?
Yes, Hillsborough County is different than the surrounding counties. 3 municipalities, surrounded by suburban areas. And I think that as we look at this and competing interest, it's difficult enough in a small model like Hillsborough County to work with issues with a larger city like Tampa versus Plant City, Temple Terrace, and the suburban communities, and those competing interests just in this small micro model. You expand that to these other counties, I think this is something that maybe should be pursued years down the line as we mature and grow out. But right now, in the beginning, at this really kind of beginning of burgeoning growth, we need to concentrate at home, because I know the interest that my colleagues have in Hillsborough County are sometimes very competing with the interest of the city of Tampa. But I can't imagine what that looks like if we were to expand beyond that scope. I think it's very different than we refer to like the airport, which is a single point of transportation for a large metropolitan area, and I agree with my colleague reference his issues with that specific mode of transportation and how we plan. But in the scope of this organization and what we're looking at, I think we need to concentrate on what we can do. We're at the beginning of something that's really happening here, central focused on Hillsborough County. And I think maybe as we grow, we could look at this somewhere down the line. But right now, I think we need to concentrate on building out and working with what we have and our competing interests here at home.
Thank you. Commissioner Owen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Alden, so what we're looking at today, though, is not whether or not we agree or we approve the regional impact. It's more so directing staff to prepare the MOU. And again, legislation is already on its way. It's done. This seems like, to not support this means we're not getting in line with what the legislature is doing anyway. So to me, that doesn't make much sense. And listen, I was somebody that at first, when this was coming around, I said, well, why should we, as Hillsborough County, we're the big dogs on the block, why should we become regional? But then the more I looked at it, and the more I get a good general understanding of what this means, as they stated, the pros and cons for the state of Florida, for us to be #1 in the state of Florida when it comes to getting grants, the more I look at this, the more it makes sense to me. And I've listened to a lot of the comments about people that are unelected that would be making decisions with taxpayer dollars. I'll just remind everybody that that's why the surtax got found unconstitutional, is that we were basically providing a source for people to spend funds that weren't elected. I serve on a lot of boards, this one included, with people that aren't elected, and I look across the aisle right here, and a lot of these folks over here are what I consider experts. They're the people I kind of listen to, not that we're not experts at certain things, but these folks over here are the experts in their field. So I don't think that argument holds weight. Listen, there's nothing wrong with being Tampa-centric. I know most people on this board live and represent Tampa, and you were doing your job representing Tampa. I come from the unincorporated part of Hillsborough County, East and South County, and I represent Plant City as well. And, you know, I feel like in the past they haven't gotten their due, and we've been really focused on Tampa. So I do believe at this point that this is a smart thing to do. I'm going to move for approval to prepare the MOU. I would like to hear from the Secretary on what we're striking. Would you make a comment on that? I just want to make sure, because I'm not too up to date, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Well, he was next in the
He was
queue.
next, okay, thanks.
Okay, Secretary Gwen.
Yes, so, and as far as the whereas, I don't know that we really had much of a concern with that as I understood it. My folks can get up and tell me if that's different. But I think the thing to remember is there's a study due by the end of the year, and obviously I assume Hillsborough TPO wants to be a part of that study. Pinellas MPO and Pasco MPO have already, you know, supported moving forward with the study, so we want to make sure everyone has the voice in the study. A couple of things. One, I know our central office folks are working with MPOAC, and I think the intent is that the $350,000 that each MPO gets would be combined into, in other words, you wouldn't just get one $350,000. I believe you get three $350,000s that could be used. So, but I wouldn't worry about that today, because that can be looked at in the study. You know, today isn't really, I don't think, more about debating the merits and the pros and the cons. It's more about getting an MOU in place so that this study can, we only got, I know the bill probably hadn't been signed yet, but you only got till the end of the year to do this study. You know, bigger picture, there's a lot of things you can throw either side of it, and that'll all be brought in this study forward, the feasibility, the pros and cons. From my perspective, one of the biggest pros that we could have, and this comes from, you know, I spent a good number of days up in Tallahassee this year. We met recently with representatives from USDOT. You know, when they're determining where what I call kind of discretionary money, the money that's not given to us just because we have a certain population or we pay a certain amount of gas tax or we have, you know, a certain land area or whatever, those are sent to us and they can't take that away. But an even bigger pot is the money that gets distributed out based on a lot of factors, need, but some of it really, quite honestly, is the clout of the area that's requesting those funds, whether they be from the new federal funds. I mean, there's huge federal funds that have not yet been allocated. And then we've got the strategic intermodal system funds that are given out throughout the state, not based on a formula. I'm not saying you couldn't do this necessarily without a regional MPO. If there was a TMA that was, I think, more cohesive and coordinated, that could maybe speak as a region. But so far, what I hear when I went to Tallahassee was Tampa Bay region doesn't speak as a region when it comes to lobbying for transportation dollars, for making the case for a regional big projects. We did on West Shore. All the counties came together, everybody supported it, and the project that 2 years earlier was removed from the work program was put back in, and I do credit the folks like yourselves that went and tried to get that project put back in. If you look at Orlando, Metroplan Orlando, when they go looking for projects, they go as a group, and they've been extremely successful over the last couple of decades. You can see the big projects they've gotten. Some of them you may or may not like. You may like Sunrail, but you've also got I-4 Ultimate project. You've got the Wekiva Parkway. You've got all these big projects. We have not really gotten those kind of projects here until we got the West Shore project. I think there's opportunities there, so it's something to just think about. But getting this study done and being a part of it, I think, is the important thing today. Let's make sure that whatever you want to be in the study is considered.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
Thank you. Yeah, I think Commissioner Owen mentioned this, and also Secretary Gwynn. We have to put into context where we are in terms of what is going on with the state and with our neighboring counties. If we don't want to be at the table for this discussion, we're going to be on the table for dinner. So I think at the very least, we want to engage. I said at our last discussion of this, and I will say again, I think that where the rubber really is going to meet the road with this for us is going to be on the apportionment plan and making sure that the representation puts us in a position that's commensurate with our population and with the vibrancy of our economy. When I look at the map that was part of the presentation, the map of the yellow that shows the population spreading all over the three-county region, I can tell you that my commission district sits squarely in the middle of the area, and the jurisdictional lines are invisible to people, and people are driving over them and traversing over them constantly in pursuit of employment or childcare or all sorts of different activities. And to the point about the West Shore interchange, that is the major regional hub, and it took everybody coming together as a region in order to make it actually finally happen. And there's also been, I think, a very good example recently at Tampa Bay Water of where Tampa Bay Water wanted to build a pipeline to meet our needs in South County. Hillsborough County wanted a different route than the route that Tampa Bay Water wanted. We had a discussion about it, and they acceded to our wishes and followed the Hillsborough County route because we were able to make an argument of why it was the better way to go. So there are examples out there of regional cooperation that work very, very well. And at the very least, we shouldn't, at this point, in my view, close the door on that. We'll have the opportunity, I think, once the details are fleshed out, to really decide if this is in our interest. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilman Schisler.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Double Terrace is the smallest dog in this fight, so we recognize that, but we also recognize the practicality of at least going through with the MOU, the apportionment issues, just being at the table. It's going to happen. The study's going to happen. That was, I believe that's mandated by legislature. It's going to happen by the end of the year. We might as well be there and have a say as to what's going to happen going forward in the future. So I will be supporting the motion for the MOU. In fact, I will second it.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hurtak?
Thank you. I currently sit on T-BARTA, and we're closing that because we couldn't figure out how to get something done. The biggest concern that we even have in this TPO is, and what I see from the presentation and discussions I've had with staff in preparation for this meeting, I look at apportionment as a major part of this, and I see it as a major constraint for what we do on the TPO as it exists already. I'm going to champion basically what one of our former members, who we just thanked this morning, former Councilman Citro, on, if we apportion by where people lay their heads, we aren't going to apportion right. We need to apportion half based on where people lay their heads and the other half where they sit at a desk. Because the reality is Tampa's regular roadways are being driven by people who live all throughout the area, but the opposite is not happening. People from Tampa are not driving every day on Riverview's roads. So for me, would I be inclined to do this study without the requirement of the legislature? Absolutely not. But as someone else said, if you're not at the table, you're on the table. So we're going to have to go through this process. My interest is I want to see an apportionment. I want to see a possible apportionment plan. What does it look like if we have people, if we do half for where you lay your head versus where you work? Because we have so much congestion in one major area, how do we fix that? And I think that people who are in that area, be it commissioners from Hillsborough, council members from Tampa, we have to look at that. And I'm heartened by the story I read in the Tampa Bay Business Journal with Secretary Gwynn and his desire and interest and discussion about moving people and not cars. And I think that's going to take a larger conversation. So I'm going to approve this because we have to, but my real support, and I don't know if I have to make an amendment, but one of the things I'd really love to look at is how we apportion based not only where people lay their heads, but where they work.
Okay, thank you so much. I can't see your next Secretary Gwynn. Yes, your name?
Yeah, Stephen Bernstein.
Okay, thank you. Steve, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just echo the sentiments of those in the room who I think correctly pointed out that Ms. Watkins has framed the issue before us in fairly narrow terms. And to me personally, this comes down to, generally speaking, a big idea. Big ideas require input and outreach to citizens and governments. And if I understand it correctly, that's what we're being called upon to vote in support of, as opposed to proving the bigger idea. I'd submit it's premature to weigh in on the bigger idea without that input. Presumably it'll come from the CAC. It'll come from individual citizens far more than we've heard from today. And I don't see how that can be anything but helpful. And I'd add that with big ideas come opportunities, and so too come challenges. Let's find out what they are. People are moving into this community every day. It's going to take big ideas to deal with that challenge, whatever those ideas are. We don't have the luxury, in my view, of killing those ideas before they start. And for that reason, I'll be voting in favor of this initiative as well.
Thank you, and thank you all for your comments. We have a motion on the floor, a motion by Commissioner Owen, second by Councilman Schisler. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Is that you, Jessica, online?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we have two. Gil, you have that?
I have one nay.
Two.
Who was the second?
Jessica Vaughn.
Vaughn, thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, so we're going to move right along. Next is our status report, and thank you so much. FDOT representative, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Madam Chair and board members. My name is Amber Russo. I am a PD&E project manager with the Florida Department of Transportation, District 7. Today, I'm here to present a status update on the US 41 at CSX PD&E study design change reevaluation. However, I am filling in for the actual project manager today, Craig Fox, but we have a team here to answer any questions that you may have. I also have some slides. Perfect. Thank you. All right, next, please. So this slide shows a map of the project location. It's at the intersection of US 41 and Causeway Boulevard in Palm River, Claremont. Next, please. The purpose of this project is to reduce traffic delays associated with the CSX railroad crossing support the safe movements of trucks and freight, and enhance bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Between 2017 and 2021, there were 10 crashes involving cyclists or pedestrians. These 10 crashes resulted in 1 fatality and a total of 8 injuries. There were 10 recorded train and vehicular crashes at the US 41 crossing between 1976 and the year 2000. No collisions involving trains have been identified since April of 2000. Next, please. So we're conducting a design change reevaluation of a previous 1994 environmental assessment, or EA, with the finding of no significant impact. Next, please. The proposed improvements begin on Causeway Boulevard, west of South 45th Street, and extend east to the end project limit just west of the Causeway Boulevard CSX Railroad crossing for a distance of approximately 0.6 miles. The existing roadway has 2 travel lanes in each direction. Please note the railroad crossing across Causeway Boulevard is not included in the current study's project limits. Next, please. For the US 41 portion, the proposed improvements begin south of Causeway Boulevard at Denver Street and extend north of Causeway to 23rd Avenue for a distance of approximately 1.3 miles. The existing roadway has 3 travel lanes in each direction, and the proposed improvements will grade separate the CSX Railroad crossing on US 41. Next, please. Causeway Boulevard west of US 41 and US 41 south of Causeway Boulevard are a part of FDOT's Strategic Intermodal System, or the SIS. The CSX Road crossing US 41 is a designated SIS railroad connector. The portion of US 41 through the project limits is designated as a critical urban freight corridor, meaning a public road located in an industrial area that connects to important highways and interstates within the National Highway Freight Network. Both roadways are designated as hurricane evacuation routes. Next, please. The existing Causeway Boulevard typical section is a 4-lane undivided roadway with a 2-way left turn lane in the median. There are 4-foot bike lanes and 6-foot sidewalks. Next, please. The existing US 41 typical section is a 6-lane divided roadway south of Causeway Boulevard and is undivided north of Causeway Boulevard with a 2-way left turn lane within the median. The sidewalks are 6 feet wide south of Causeway and 4 feet wide north of Causeway. There are no bike lanes along US 41. Next, please. The proposed improvement for Causeway Boulevard maintains the existing 4-lane typical section while adding raised medians and widening the bike lanes to 7-foot buffered bike lanes. Next, please. For US 41, the typical sections are divided into at-grade, elevated, and bridge typical sections. Starting with the at-grade portion shown here, the proposed roadway section maintains a 6-lane roadway and adds raised medians. 7-foot buffered bike lanes are also proposed, along with sidewalks widened to 10 feet south of Causeway Boulevard. Next, please. From north of Trenton Street to south of Causeway Boulevard, the proposed roadway section grade separates US 41 to south of St. Paul Street. The proposed roadway section consists of a 6-lane divided urban section with 12-foot lanes and 10-foot inside and outside paved shoulders. West of the US 41 main line, a 2-lane undivided frontage road for local access to adjacent properties will be provided. The proposed frontage road is an urban curb section with asphalt pavement, 12-foot travel lanes, and a 10-foot sidewalk on the west side. Next, please. There are 3 bridge typical sections. They're comprised of 6 12-foot lanes with 10-foot paved inside and outside shoulders. The crossings include Delaney Creek, South 36th Avenue, and then the CSX Railroad and St. Paul Street crossings. Next, please. 4 stormwater management ponds are being proposed as part of the project. Based on the evaluation, this project would need to acquire approximately 10.65 acres of additional right-of-way for these facilities. Next, please. The project alternatives were evaluated for impacts to the social, cultural, natural, and physical environments. Next, please. The estimated total project costs shown here include design phase, right-of-way, wetland mitigation, CEI, and then construction at $121 million for a total project cost of about $190 million. Next, please. These proposed improvements are consistent with your 2045 long-range transportation plan. Next, please. So the study began in May of 2018 and has an anticipated approval in late 2023. After the public hearing, the study team will gather and consider all public input and update the project evaluation and documents to move towards the approval timeframe. The project's design and right-of-way acquisition phases are currently funded. However, the construction phase is not currently funded. Next, please. The public hearing will be held on Thursday, June 1st from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. at Port Tampa Bay's Terminal 6. The meeting will be simultaneously held online via GoToWebinar for virtual attendees, and the registration link is now available on the project website. Next, please. So here you can see a link to that project website. Also, the project manager, Craig Fox, his contact information is shown here. Following this meeting, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to Craig. Next, please. I just want to mention, I think there should be a newsletter in your packets announcing the public hearing with all the information, inviting you all to attend. I want to thank you for your time, and we would be happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Coyne.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay. Charles?
Yes, thank you. If you can go back to that slide, just showing the big loop rail, so where the proposed location is. Just a little background on this is that back in the 60s, we used to have unit train rail going through downtown Tampa, down Meridian, and that's why there was a big Meridian yard. The last remnant of that was the ConAgra Ardent Mills Mill, which is now gone. We moved that down to Port Red Wing. The port's leasing that land down to get that last remnant of manufacturing out of downtown. But we used to have rail, unit train rail going through downtown to Seddon Island, which you probably know now as Harbor Island. So Seddon Island was a phosphate terminal, and we had hundreds of cars going down to Seddon Island. So we moved that. We worked with the CSX's predecessor to move that unit train rail to that big loop rail, which is now the biggest in the southeast right there. And so that's the problem we have here now, is that there are probably 45-minute delays sometimes of cars trying to traverse down US 41 when there's a unit train of phosphate going over to that location. So this phosphate terminal wasn't on Harbor Island, now it's over here, this location. And now, as this has become more urbanized, that's needed to be taken care of as well. So the port used to be all through the river, downtown, channel side. We're seeing the port getting pushed out more and more to the south and the east. And this is one of those areas that we're trying to address to take care of traffic congestion issues as the county continues to grow. So we support this, the port. This is one of our projects. We spend tens of millions of dollars a year on improvements within our lands. This is land outside the port. It's on US 41. This is going to have, the main thing here is the viaduct that's going to go over the rail, and also that bridge over Denny Creek. It's going to prevent those delays, allow people to traverse US 41, not have any delays, especially during hurricanes, things like that. We don't have to have people waiting there to get out of the area. So we support that area. I know it's not up for approval today. This is an important project for the board. Thanks.
Thank you. Can we have a motion just to receive the report? Okay. Motion by Councilman Maniscalco. Who seconded? Oh, Schiffler. Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Any opposes? Thank you so much. And we move right into the Executive Director's report.
Thank you so much. And I'm also very excited to see this project move forward. This has been a project that's been a priority of this board for a long time, including in the previous long-range transportation plan. And we've worked together with the Port and Hillsborough County Economic Development for a long time. So just a couple of quick reminders. The next step in the process for recruitment for the new executive director, we will be closing the application period this Friday. And then after that, we'll be distributing all of the qualified resumes to the board members with an online survey, like a Survey Monkey, that kind of thing, where you can provide your ratings. And then we'll report back to you in June with a summary of the shortlist for you to consider interviewing. And we'll be asking for this board's approval of the shortlist. The interviews will then take place virtually in July. Our next meeting of the TMA Leadership Group is the 23rd of June, and that's where we'll start talking about some of the options for an apportionment plan for a tri-county MPO, some of the options for a sustainable budget for a tri-county MPO, and we'll start to hear feedback from the local governments in particular, although I expect that to continue over the summer. So my next step will be to schedule time with each of our local governments to walk through the tri-county merger concept, tri-county MPO concept, and get feedback. Then as Elizabeth said, we'll be back in the fall looking at, again, the options that are talked about at the tri-county level for voting and budget and what the next steps are. And so none of this is going anywhere without this board's approval. We also, in June, have a special meeting with the Planning Commission and the Hillsborough River Board to look at the Plan Hillsborough Strategic Plan. And so that's important because that's something that every 5 years we look at what are the opportunities to coordinate the planning within this county for land use and transportation and environmental planning. The fact that all of that planning is done by one staffing agency right now means that there are some economies of scale and some opportunities to pursue strategic initiatives. And so once every 5 years, we invite the planning commissioners and the TPO board members and the Hillsborough River board members to get together and just kind of brainstorm about what you see on the radar screen and how we can do a great job as staff supporting all three boards and building on that synergy. Even if we do wind up creating a tri-county MPO, there may still be staff doing some of this transportation planning at Plan Hillsborough. One of the options might be to look at staff services agreements where you retain some staff within Hillsborough County, and some staff at the regional level. So I think there are a lot of ways to address the questions that are coming up about this merger. And the fact that you all are willing to be part of that discussion, I think will open the door to making the best, making this the best it can be. And I think that concludes my report.
You have a date for your June meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry. That is Friday, June the 16th. That is going to be in the morning. It should be on all of your calendars. It is also on the Plan Hillsborough calendar. Of course, that's going to be a public meeting. Yes, sir. Our next meeting is our annual public hearing on the Transportation Improvement Program. And that is on our second Wednesday of the month in June. So that'll be 6 p.m. It'll be on the second floor.
Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. Any old business? Any new business? We all can read the announcements that are listed. Thank you so much for your support this morning. Enjoy.